and they drafted a cornerback in round 3. Ambry Thomas seems like he could play as a rookie. He's one of their top 4 picks. Sybilla is a former defensive back and can see a whole lot more of the technical stuff than I can. So I'm very curious to know what you see when you scout Ambry Thomas.
Okay, so last week we went over Hufanga and we went over Lenoir, and I said something about Lenoir that I'm so excited to see what he does on the field. Yes. Ambry Thomas is more game ready than him. And I think that's very important for the 49ers. It's interesting for me because we're going to get into it, but I don't see him as a perimeter corner. I see him as a nickel corner, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But basically, so let's go over who this guy is. Drafted out of Michigan. His number was 1. He was picked in round 3, 102nd pick overall of the 2021 draft. He's 6 foot, 189 pounds. A little side note, he opted out of the 2020 season. Mm-hmm. I love seeing senior years from cornerbacks. I love seeing just how game ready they can get and just how much they have progressed. But the Niners saw enough from him, and so did I when I watched his tape to draft him. And he was projected to go in the 2nd or 3rd round anyway, so like that's what he got. So I think he's a pretty solid pick for the record. Looking at some of his competition, most of the schools I saw were decent football programs: SMU, Notre Dame, Rutgers, Middle Tennessee, Penn State, stuff like that. His first highlight is on his kickoff, his specialty.
That's right.
And we've been pretty anemic there over the last couple of years, don't you think? I think Reed, DJ Reed, I think he had potential. And if you remember that return he got that kind of got pulled back from actually the returner with unnecessary roughness, which I love.
Was that against San Diego back when they were in San Diego? Was it the Chargers 3 years ago? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, I remember that.
Personally, I love seeing penalties like that because that's just, they get beasted by everyone. I like to see them beast someone. But the point is, since that play, I just haven't seen a lot. And this guy, right at the beginning of one of his seasons, he broke one loose and returned it all the way for 6. So I do like that. And if you watch him, it's not necessarily that he's the most elusive. He's hard to bring down. So in that play, he broke 2 horse collar tackles. I mean, they got him 3 fingers in the collar, and he just shirked it like Tom Brady does. Just shirked it with his shoulder and just kept going. And it's like it pulled him all the way back, and he kept going. So I really like that.
So you think he has major potential as a returner?
Yes, and I think they would be remiss not to exploit that the way they were remiss not to make Dante Pettis do his job.
I see. So that might have been the vision. Like he may not start right away at corner, but he could be the returner.
Yes, and I think maybe even gunner on special teams or something like that. Things where he gets some different looks to the game. And again, this is a component of his game. And if he's not going to start at corner, there's no need for me, at least, to conserve him for that. And remember, do you remember Steve Smith Sr.?
Yes.
Okay, of course you do. Top 10 prolific receiver, definitely.
Yes.
They called him undersized. They said he couldn't do this or that. And so he got into the game as a special teams player. Sometimes you just need to find a way onto the team. Remember, he did returns, and his first touch in his career, I think, was a touchdown. So that's kind of like, it reminded me of that. Now, he's a defensive player. But something else that Kyle Shanahan might like is he's taken reverses before.
Yep, he played a little offense.
He did, and it's and the one example of that I saw where he takes the ball, he went for 11 yards or so. It was a first down. So very solid.
I see it right here. Yeah, 2018. Now it does say that he returned 39 kickoffs in college, returned 1 for a touchdown. He never returned a punt. So I wonder if they would put him back there. It seems to
I
me
wouldn't
that
put him on punts yet.
Not on punts.
Wouldn't you rather have Richie James or someone like that back there?
I'd like to have Brandon Ayuk back there, personally.
Okay.
Personally.
Yeah, so I guess from explosivity, yes, Brandon Ayuk. I don't want him getting injured. That's the only thing I worry about. I don't want extra touches for Ayuk unless it's from Trey Lance passing to him or something. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But yeah, he might be really good at that.
Okay.
So he's capable of running the jet sweep. One of the things I noticed about him, he's very sticky in underneath coverage. So within the first 5 yards, he puts his hands on the receiver. Now, that was a concern in his scouting report coming out of college because they are afraid that when you translate to the pro level, these sticky fingers, as we call them, will draw penalties.
Right.
So he's not just a bump and run kind of corner. He is good at that, but he puts his hands on you, and you're going to have to break outside that. So he's a disruptor. Most of his game is based, he's very fast, but most of his game is based on the fact that he will disrupt your routes and that this will affect it as it tries to develop later. That's evidenced by the fact that he's been burned a few times deep on passes that are post routes and things like, or go routes. So when he gets down the field, he's not burned because he's slow. He gets burned occasionally because his technique needs some work. And because he relies so heavily on the first 5 yards to mess up his receiver. This is important against lower tier quarterbacks because they are more about timing and less about improvisation. So he's the kind of guy who feasts off of bad quarterbacks because he disrupts the route, and when they go to pass it, the receiver's not even there. I saw a lot of a bunch of his interceptions. I would say the majority were from passes that were horrible because the quarterback sees it at the last second. You can see where their arm tries to shank the ball, and they weren't throwing. I mean, they were throwing goose eggs out there, but his hands are really good. So that's kind of what he does. He predates on quarterbacks' inability to deal with what he does within the first 5 yards. I do like that, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe that helps Jimmy Ward. Maybe that helps Art.
But you're saying when the ball's in the air, he's not necessarily elite.
Not yet.
Well, that's why he went to the 3rd round, right?
Right. He has so he's a technique corner versus an athletic corner, if that makes sense to you. He's not going to wow you with his ability to just man-to-man beast a receiver and outman him. He's going to catch your eye as a scout because his technique within the first 5 yards is excellent.
Got it.
And that's what I like about him.
It seems like that's what they want from their corners. I mean, Diamador Lenore is similar with his press, is he not?
He is. I think that Diamador is probably a little bit more on the stick with them side, whereas I think Ambry Thomas is more on the side, I'll mess you up from the beginning and you will never recover.
Got it.
That's not gonna see. I want to see him go against DK Metcalf. Let's see how tough he is.
Good luck. I don't think you're going to just shut him down in the first 5 yards.
189 pounds. See, I identify with this guy. I think he got 15 or 16 reps on the 225 bench.
Oh, wow.
That for a corner is pretty good. They refer to this guy as very strong. He also, remember, he got was coronitis, right?
Yes.
So that is a problem for you basically eating and things like that. And when you're trying to build weight and be an athlete,
colitis,
the worst thing that can happen to you is something intestinal.
Yes, that's true. He had colitis.
He came back from that. So I do think he's a dog. I think he has that dog mentality, and I want to see him bring that to the team.
Okay. All right.
So I do like that about him. So that's kind of my feel for him. His 19 stats, by the way, were 3 interceptions. He does not return them at all. He catches them and falls, catches them and goes right out of bounds.
That's funny.
So he got 3 interceptions for 6 yards.
You said that you think he's better in the slot. Why?
As a nickel corner, simply because right now his technique downfield is not good enough. It's not that I want him to be better there. I want him in the nickel corner position simply because that's a great incubator. I think it's a great place for him to learn technique before they move him to the outside. Because if Verrett is there and they put Ambry Thomas opposite him, he's going to get matchups like DK Metcalf. He's going to get matchups like DeAndre Hopkins.
He's going to get a lot of action.
And if he just so first off, 100% of the time a corner cannot possibly beat a receiver. It doesn't happen.
No.
As we say, it's easier to hunt than it is to run. And the fact of the matter is, the wide receiver is on the offensive. You're on the defensive. Yeah. So one of these plays, at least according to his scouting report and what I see, is going to be a 40-yard bomb to DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah. Right off
I don't think the 49ers are ready for that. I think Emmanuel Mosley represents a little bit more grit against, and I think he's proven he can hang in there mano a mano with guys like DK Metcalf. He might not be the best corner on the team or in the league, but I think right now, and Mosley is further along than where Ambry Thomas will be coming in.